Am I the butthole for telling my son's mom that he's staying with me while he recovers? My 9-year son needed hip bone osteoma surgery and his mom and I scheduled it before his 3-week winter break. My ex and I share 50-50, but I get him on winter break so she could take him out of state to see her family in the summer. The day before the surgery she asked me if I could stay at her place to recover from the surgery. I asked her why and all she said was that she just wanted to be there. I said no. Rai has never had surgery and it's a big deal for him. I don't want him to think that the first thing when you face something scary is run to your mom and not your dad. I told her I was quite insulted by her request. Plus he was going to need help getting dressed, undressed and bathed for the first couple of days and I highly doubt that he'd be comfortable having his mom do that. She said her husband could do that. I told her no. He's having the surgery and I'm taking him to my house when he's released. I don't care if she's in the operating room. She then asked if she could see him at my place and I said no. The agreement is that we have scheduled FaceTime with him when he's at the other parent's house. I don't want my ex-wife in my home any more than she wants me in hers. If the shoe was on the other foot then I'd understand whether I liked it or not. I held firm and things have been tense between us ever since. Personally I don't care because I'm not apologizing for not giving her what she wanted. Edit. No, my son doesn't get to decide who he gets to stay with and when and for how long. That's why there are custody agreements. You're the butthole. She's concerned about her son and you turned it into a power play. You're the butthole. You're thinking of yourself and not your kid. It's your time to have him, so taking him back to your place makes sense, but not letting his mother come to visit him in person is a crafty thing to do, and the argument I have a penis so only I can help my son bathe and get dressed is bullcrap. Your ex is his mother. I'm ready to bet he wouldn't have an issue with it. Grow up. You're the butthole. All this what I want, and not giving her what she wanted. The surgery is not about you or your ex-wife. It's about your son. Do either of you know what he wants? Will he want to see her while he recovers? Why can't you work together to make this the best experience possible for him? Am I the butthole for telling my husband's parents to stop telling people my name is Katherine and for embarrassing them in front of friends? My name is Rin. Just Rin. Not Katherine. But ever since my eels have met me, they have gotten the idea that my actual name is Katherine and Rin is just a nickname. I have asked them not to introduce me or tell people it's my name, but they always go back to it. My husband and I took a small break from them when it continued and they apologized and seemed to be doing better. Then for my Mill's birthday we were invited to celebrate with them and a couple of her friends came up to me and asked if I was Katherine. They said mother-in-law talked all about me. I decided to get a little bit jokey instead of annoyed and played up on it, saying mother-in-law is so forgetful and that I was so sorry she told them the wrong name. That I'll need to write my name on everything she owns so they don't forget. Her friends found it funny but told her it was weird that she gave them the wrong name. She and father-in-law came up to me close to the end of the party and I told them to stop telling people my name is Katherine and they need to accept that my name isn't up to them. They claim I was rude and that it was awful for me to try and embarrass them in front of their friends, by joking with Mill's friends. My husband told them they should have listened. But they are saying I took it too far and maybe I did. Am I the butthole? How are they unaware that they're embarrassing both you and themselves in front of their friends? It's a basic of decent manners to get people's names right, to the best of one's abilities, whenever possible. Not the butthole, Rin. I like your sense of humor. Not the butthole. Can I introduce you to Brian, my mother-in-law, and Stephanie, my father-in-law? Not the butthole. This conversation should never have gone past. You. Hey mother-in-law, I'm Rin, nice to meet you. Mother-in-law. Oh hi, I've not heard that name before, is it short for Katherine? You. No, just Rin. Mother-in-law. Alright, nice to meet you, Rin. Because that's how a normal introduction goes with literally every sane person on the planet. Not the butthole. Took it too far? She's introducing and calling you by the wrong name. OP, just start calling them a different name and see how they like it. Am I the butthole for not making my brother and his fiancée a wedding cake after they refused to pay me? I, 25 female, love to bake. It's a big passion of mine and something I love to do as a hobby in my free time. I have an Instagram account that I use to show off my work, which is mainly the cakes I bake and decorate. I make these cakes for family and friends for birthdays or special occasions, Christmas, Easter, etc. I never charge for these cakes, but I'm always compensated in some way by my family and friends. They'll usually gift me money or a gift card to my favorite restaurants, or make me a dish in return as a thank you. My younger brother, 23 male, and his fiancée, 23 female, were planning their wedding and asked me a few months in advance if I'd be able to make their cake for them. This would be my biggest order yet. They wanted a 3-layer cake, wedding was 75 people, in the flavor of strawberry shortcake as it's their favorite. I was hesitant at first but agreed to make the cake, under the condition that I was compensated for it. I explained to them that this was the biggest order I've never had, and was going to take up a lot of my time, labor and be costly. I gave them a very fair price for a cake of that caliber. They agreed. I also made it clear that I wanted to be paid before the wedding. I provided them multiple sketches of what the cake would look like. Made a practice batch of the actual cake so that they could sample, and they loved the cake and approved of everything. Fast forward to last week, 6 days before the wedding. I contacted my brother for my payment as I was going to get started on buying the rest of the ingredients for the cake, minus the strawberries. I was going to do that closer to the date so they could be fresh. He assured me he'd drop off my check the next day. Next day came, brother went MIA and no check arrived, so I tried to contact him again. Next day came, no check again. I offered to drive to their house and pick up the check. They made an excuse that it didn't work with their schedules. So the day before the wedding I contacted both my brother and his fiancée asking again. They blew up on me telling me that I'm a selfish BTCH for charging them when I don't charge the rest of the family and that they refused to pay, but demanded me to make the cake. I said no, and explained my terms again. They called me a selfish and said I better make the damn cake. I again said no. So the day of the wedding I decided not to attend, due to the amount of disrespect they showed me. Well, my brother, his fiancée and her family are now blowing up my phone sending me all kinds of nasty messages. My family are trying to stay out of it, but don't think I should have screwed them like that. Am I the butthole for not making the cake after they refused to pay me? Info, I was charging them $400. They knew exactly what they were doing. For anyone who is giving you a hard time about it, tell them you're certainly welcome to make a free wedding cake for them. Not the butthole. Not the butthole. And for a 25-year woman, you have a remarkably good ability to set and enforce a boundary and not be guilted into doing things. I think many people in your situation would have made the cake out of a sense of guilt and then just been resentful afterwards for being out all the time and money. Then they'd be posting here wondering if they're the for being mad and asking for the money over and over after the fact. Your way or the other way, people would be mad. Because they're entitled users. You shut it down on the front end. Well done. Your brother and his now wife are entitled but you're definitely not the butthole. You were upfront about the charges and $400 for a 75-person wedding cake is pretty inexpensive. They agreed to this and then tried to guilt you into doing it for free, at the last minute. The fact that her family is piling on shows the familial level of entitlement going on there. This is the type of thing that would cause me to go either LC or no contact. It doesn't sound like you'd be missing out on much. Not the butthole. All I read here is they're calling you a selfish because they have to pay for something that costs a lot of time and money. Would I be the butthole if I refused to give back my neighbor's cat? So my parents for my birthday got me a kitten. I adored this kitten. He was like my best friend, followed me everywhere I went and always slept on my pillow next to my face. My mom has this friend that lives 2 streets over. She and her daughter comes over a lot. The girl has autism, but that's irrelevant why I don't like her. Now back to my cat. When the temps are cool at night we open our back doors which leads to a big screened-in patio. O'Malley, the cat, loved that room. It was his outdoorsy time to get fresh air. Late one evening, O'Malley vanished. We were baffled. There were no holes in the screen, nowhere he could have gotten out. Regardless, we spent weeks looking for him. I completely broke down one day, realizing he's gone forever. I felt like I mourned him. Fast forward a few months, my dad and I are coming home one evening. We drove past a lost cat sign and both of us freaked. It looked so much like Thomas O'Malley, just a bit older version of him. My dad wrote the number down, thinking maybe he'd call. Out of curiosity he looks up the number to find out, it's the friend of my mother that lives 2 streets over. My dad and I decided to go start looking for him again. Nothing, then a few nights later I hear a faint meow coming from the backyard. It was O'Malley. I was so happy I was crying, he was so happy he was vibrating because he was purring so loud. I thought it was a happy ending. I had my best buddy back that I never thought I'd see again. I so missed him. He went right back to sleeping on my pillow with me. That was until my mother decided to allow the mother cat thief and her demon spawn into our house. Thomas O'Malley saw them and ran off. I went after him, took him in my room and barricaded us in there. An argument pursued, then it stopped. My mom came to my door and said we have to give him back. Nope, ain't no way in hell. I was prepared to find out if Amazon could drone deliver us food to my window before I ever opened that door again. Cat nappers called the cops. My dad produced adoption paperwork with his microchip that is still registered to us. They produced recent pics of O'Malley with vet records. The cops said it's a civil matter, take it to the courthouse. They're claiming O'Malley is the autistic girl's ESA, and that they found him in the woods. Lies. My mom does not want this escalating to the court and says I need to give O'Malley back. She said I need to consider the girl's disability and the fact they had O'Malley longer than I did, barely. Like, let's just ignore the fact they stole him. My dad says it's my decision and he'll support me in whatever I decide, but then also said behind mother's back to F them people. I don't want to give him back, it's not fair, he is my cat. He doesn't even like them, and plus they named him Foo Foo. Like, just no. Do not give them the cat. WIBTA. Not the butthole. It's not even about you, or that girl. The cat chose you. The cat fled her. Nuff said. Cats are emotionally capable animals just like us. If your mom can't respect a conscious being's choice, she's the butthole. Am I the butthole for excluding kids from coming to my daughter's birthday? I, 38 female, have a daughter, 8 female, who is a shy, bookish introvert. She isn't popular, and she would prefer to read at the library than go to a big giant social event. She has 4 really very good friends in her class of roughly 30 kids. I'll add that some of her classmates are not very nice to her. So her birthday is coming up and she specifically asked me if we could do something, her and her 4 friends. This is what has been going on since she was young. We've never thrown an actual giant Instagram birthday party. We're not poor by any means, but we're not rich and we live in a small apartment, so what we'd normally do is me, her, and her 4 friends would go out for ice cream and a paint-your-own ceramic activity, or something like that. However, word got out that my daughter is having a party and I got an email from her teacher where she essentially called me out for my lack of inclusivity. She said that she had gotten complaints from other kids in her class that my daughter was being a bully for only inviting certain people, her close friends, and the teacher told me that now I had to invite the whole class. I cannot afford to host a party for 30 kids, or bring 30 kids to an activity. I also was afraid of my daughter getting bullied at her own party and wanted this to be a safe space for her. So I politely told the teacher this and explained that it wasn't even a party but a get-together for her closest friends. Now I'm getting loads of angry emails from parents of kids who weren't invited asking me why not and pressuring me to invite their kids. One even accused me of being discriminatory against their son because he has asthma. I've had 10 angry emails and I'm starting to think maybe I should invite all the kids in the spirit of inclusivity and have it in a park or something. Am I the butthole? Edit. Thank you all for your wonderful comments. I have sent an email to the principal asking for an explanation, with a threat to take this to the school board. I will not give in and I'm going to make sure my daughter and her friends have the lovely day they deserve, in peace and alone. Not the butthole. If you invited 28 kids out of that class, you would be excluding 2 children. But 4 friends is totally fine. No kid in that class has the impression everyone is invited but me. This is ridiculous. Not the butthole, and don't you dare fold to those entitled craps. It's your daughter's birthday. She is entitled to have a birthday she can enjoy. That teacher is a huge asshole, you need to talk to the school about this. Am I the butthole for being brutally honest with my friend before her wedding? My best friend for the last 10 years is getting married in a few weeks. This past weekend was her bachelorette party. She got quite wasted, but I don't drink a lot, so I played it safer and stayed pretty coherent. At one point she was in the bathroom vomiting and crying and looking through pictures of her ex on Instagram. All the other girls were comforting her and talking about what a piece of crap he is, etc. The next maybe hour turned into fixation on her ex, how they should have been the ones married, etc. Her ex recently had a baby with his new wife, so I understand it may have opened old wounds, but they split up 5 years ago. I am also one of the few people who actually know why they split up, and all I can say is it was definitely her fault. After the hour I tried to get us all out of the bathroom and continue the night. The next morning things seemed fine, but then my friend was going through her phone and saw she had called her ex 10 plus times. She freaked out, but the calls were all so short we assume he didn't pick up. I told her she needed to delete his number from her phone and move on because it wasn't fair to the guy she is marrying if she continues to be hung up on her ex. Everyone got really upset with me for being insensitive and I was made to feel like it was my fault for letting her call him. Eventually my friend asked me to go home early. I learned from one of the other bridesmaids that they spent the rest of the morning bashing me in addition to ex. I was told part of a bachelorette party is getting closure with old relationships and my judgmental attitude ruined it for the bride-to-be. I talked to my sister about it and she said while my friend was being ridiculous that it's my job to put aside my feelings for the bride as Mo. We are all in our 30s though and this seems very odd to me. Am I the butthole? Update, wow. So many comments. I'm at work right now but trying to read as many as possible. I didn't expect to get as many responses. Thank you for all the judgment. I just want to put this here as a lot of people keep saying I should tell her fiancé. In any normal situation I would agree but in this case she has been asked in the past to choose between him and her ex. She chose her ex, she made it clear to her now fiancé she would rather be with her ex. But her ex said he didn't want her and left, so she stayed with her now fiancé. He knows on some level. Telling him wouldn't be a big revelation and likely wouldn't make him end the wedding. It would just make him sad and rub his nose in something that he is aware of. Second update, I'm so sorry these are so scattered. I spent most of my break catching up on comments and a few more main points to address. The other bridesmaids are not my friends, I'm only friends with the bride. Also people keep asking why I am her friend. One main reason, as sad as it is I didn't have a real friend until university. The town I grew up in was very small and conservative and I'm a gay woman. When I came out in high school I became a pariah. She was the first person who was ever kind to me, ever stood up for me and was my first friend so I think maybe I've been more willing to turn a blind eye to her poor choices than I should be. But I am reconsidering that now. I do have a much better and broader support circle now but I do think I see her as that kind freshman and sort of my savior which clouded my judgment in not being more upset with her toxic choices over the years. I was told part of a bachelorette party is getting closure with old relationships. No. Closure with old relationships should have happened way before accepting a marriage proposal. Not the butthole. At all. Your friend seems to still be carrying a torch for her ex while planning to marry someone else. Poor groom. Not the butthole. I'll never understand these friend groups that never tell each other the real truth. She doesn't sound like much of a friend to be honest. Plus, I thought the point of a bachelorette party was one last night out as an unmarried woman not spending the night wishing I was marrying my ex. The fact is I feel bad for the groom because he's obviously second choice and he'll probably get treated like crap. Clearly not the butthole here. You did nothing wrong in telling your friend to respect their partner and delete their ex's number. The group sounds problematic and I hope you don't hold yourself in bad esteem because of their behavior. Am I the butthole for telling my parents that I'll never watch my little brother? I, 21 male, work as an electrician apprentice, and share an apartment with 2 roommates. My parents, both 46, also have my brother, 9 months, he was born a bit after I moved out, though that's not why I did so. My parents have been really stressed out, they both work full-time but have a hard time getting the money for childcare, so they're burnt out and desperate for help. Naturally they've been asking me almost every week if I would mind coming over on one of my days off to watch him while they get out of the house. I always refuse. I'm child-free, not that I could afford a child right now anyway, but have nothing against them. I'm not one of those CF people who can't be in the same room with someone under 13 without freaking out. I hate taking care of kids. I tried babysitting my cousins as a teen and hated it, and have no interest in doing it again, as I've told my parents multiple times. What's more, while I have nothing against my brother, I'm not really interested in having a sibling relationship with someone young enough to be my son. They called me again last week, same request, and I was sick of being asked so I told them something along the lines of I've told you dozens of times that I'm not watching him, and never will. He's your responsibility, I don't live there anymore, I don't need to babysit for free. You're free to have as many kids as you want, that doesn't mean I have to be friends with them. Either stop asking or stop calling, and I hung up. I haven't heard a word from them since, and worry I may have been too harsh. Not the butthole, they already had you and, hopefully, spent 18 plus years raising you. They should know by now that having a kid is a huge responsibility and not something you can pawn off to other people. You're an adult now, you don't have to do what they tell you. Edit, seeing, and still getting, responses from people claiming that because it's his parents and brother, he should be forced to help. No. Adults should not be forced to do anything even for relatives and aren't buttholes for holding this position. I do not owe my parents anything after I move out and I am extremely lucky that they've also recognized this. Although you might think OP should help, that's a different question entirely, as he's still not in butthole for saying no. Not the butthole. You tried to tell them nicely and were forced to explain it in words they would understand. Bravo for knowing your boundaries and sticking to them, rather than letting resentment build. Giving up 50% of your free time to look after a child that's not yours without compensation is crazy to expect. I'm glad you got out of there when you did. Enjoy life. No buttholes here, But you may find that not helping anyone ever isn't the fun, liberating experience you expect. You've told them you don't give a crap about them or their child, and did so in no uncertain terms. Your comfort is more important than trying to help out and always will be. You couldn't care less. Now you're going to get a child-free experience, but probably also a parent-free experience. Hope you never have an emergency and have someone to turn to. If you ever do have kids, I hope you don't need a break, or someone to watch them. Or help of any kind. I'm sure your parents have nothing against you. But don't expect their help. Generally, not the butthole for not wanting to watch a child that is not yours. Especially when it comes to infants, not everybody is comfortable watching them. However, I feel like there is more going on here. You say that your parents are burnt out and desperate for help, and yet you not only refuse to help them every single time but even state that you will never help them in the future. You say that you don't want any kind of relationship with your brother. You even go as far as saying stop asking or stop calling. Your post almost reads like you have been an only child for 20 years, and suddenly having a brother has shifted your relationship with your parents. Is it possible that you are jealous? Or has your relationship with your parents been bad before your brother was born? Because judging from the words you're using, it sure sounds like your relationship isn't the best right now. Am I the butthole for not letting my sister eat dinner after she refused to help prepare it and called it unhygienic? My sister broke up with her boyfriend on Christmas Day. He kicked her out of their apartment, so she's been staying with me while she looks for a new place. My GF is Chinese. Yesterday, she came over with her mom and the three of us spent the afternoon making jiaozi, Chinese dumplings, minced meat and vegetables stuffed into a thin dough wrapper, boiled, and served a dipping sauce of soy sauce, Chinese vinegar, sesame oil, and chili oil. I asked my sister if she wanted to join in. She refused, saying that she was 1. Busy and 2. Even if she wasn't busy, the process looked unhygienic. After we were done, I kept 1/3 while my GF and her mom took the remaining 2/3. Later that evening I made myself a plate of jiaozi. My sister came into the kitchen and asked me where her plate was. I told her to order something on DoorDash because she has no right to eat something that she won. Didn't help prepare and 2. Talked crap about. Well, my sister must have complained to our brother because he said that I should have been easier on her BC. She's not in the best mental state after recently exiting a 4-year-long relationship. Not the butthole. If it was so unhygienic, why would she want it now? Also, she sounds racist. Not the butthole. She was rude at best, and frankly, whenever someone says that food that comes from a different culture looks unhygienic, it pretty much exclusively comes off as racist. Not the butthole, and you don't need to coddle your sister. Her breakup is not an excuse for being rude. She can feed herself. And those are good. Not the butthole. My eyebrows are raised at the subtle racism with its unhygienic. She needs to apologize to your GF and her mom. Am I the butthole for putting up a fence, no trespassing signs, and keeping everyone off of the community's hangout spot? Just to be clear, I'm not here for legal advice. I have an attorney and I checked with him on everything I've done before I did them. I have all of the required permits. I'm here because the entire town is mad at me. A few months ago I bought some land with a man-made pond on it. Where it's located there are no lakes within a 3 or 4 hour drive, and this pond is large, so over the years it's been a popular hangout spot for the locals. The previous owner stocked it with bass and bluegills every year, so the town held an annual fishing contest there in the spring. I don't live in this town but knew of the pond because I've been to a couple of the fishing contests there. When the land went up for sale, I couldn't believe it and bought it right away. The land had been in the previous owner's family for generations. About a year ago, a kid got hurt on the pond and he got sued. He lost the suit, so he had to sell the land to pay for the cost of the suit and judgment. I don't know the specifics of the case, I just know it happened because the real estate agent is a gossip. Anyway, I'm very good at learning from other people's mistakes, so as soon as it became mine, I had contractors on there fencing off the entire area and putting up no trespassing signs. Now the entire town is mad at me. People I don't know start arguments with me while I'm out and about in the town. Unfortunately, this also includes my wife's family because they live in this. They say it's cruel of me to take away everyone's fishing spot and they're calling me a Grinch. My wife is on my side, but she's close to her family and this whole thing is really taking a toll. I've also never experienced so much anger, and it's surreal to have an entire town angry at you. Edit to answer a frequently asked questions. 1. I'm sure everyone in the town know why the land was sold. It's a town of about 10,000 and word gets around. 2. I talked about liability release with my attorney before buying it, and we decided that would have been a nightmare since I don't live there and there's no way for me to make sure that everyone who steps on the land signed a waiver. 3. The previous owner was a farmer, so the land is absolutely beautiful with most of it cleared while having a couple of small forests. It's almost 200 acres and the pond is about 10 acres. I bought it because I love the outdoors and this is my little piece of heaven where I can camp and fish whenever I want to. Another reason is that companies are moving to this area, so it's also an investment. I figured I could parcel out the land to developers, keep a large chunk of it, and still come our way ahead. Not the butthole. It looks like the town didn't rush to pay the judgment against the previous owner. I'd tell them to jump in a lake. But not your pond. The land had been in the previous owner's family for generations. About a year ago, a kid got hurt on the pond and he got sued. He lost the suit, so he had to sell the land to pay for the cost of the suit and judgment. I don't know the specifics of the case, I just know it happened because the real estate agent is a gossip. Anyway, I'm very good at learning from other people's mistakes, so as soon as it became mine, I had contractors on there fencing off the entire area and putting up no trespassing signs. Now the entire town is mad at me. So you got it because the old owner got sued into destitution. I'd say not the butthole, it's clear the town is angry at the wrong people.